This morning, the story is about my tenure as an assistant geologist on a provisional basis in the regional office of Directorate of Geology, Government of Kerala at Kozhikode. Well, Iyer, me, and Radhakrishnan were living in the Valiyadi estate at Meenchanda. Meenchanda is on the south of Kozhikode town in the Thrissur road those days. Meenchanda sits in the fork where the left branch goes to Thrissur and the right branch goes to Bepur port. And in the fork and on the west side of Thrissur road, there is what is called Samudiri Kolam or Samurin Pond and a Kovilagam in a dilapidated condition, as well as a place of worship, a temple in the neighborhood, probably owned by the Samudiri family. The Samudiri Kolam is a large one, relatively, and the estate has no compound wall of any sort, and all the citizens are the locals except the women of Muslim community did use the pond for ablution, washing clothes, and so on and so forth. There were 3 ghats in the large pond, roughly which is rectangular in shape, and one was exclusively probably meant for those priests and nobility during the Samuran days. Well, this is we also, all the 3 of us also visited occasionally the pond and enjoyed a dip and a swim in this pond. And then another interesting thing about Meenchanda is the Sunday wet meat market. And very interestingly, you see a lot of birds of prey circling around and perched in the very tall trees around the wet market. And getting your share of wet market produce back to home is a Herculean task, unless otherwise you are fairly well protected. You have to walk with an umbrella in one hand and hold the umbrella open above what is called your purchase. Anyway, this is all told to us by our friends in the Valiyadi estate. Speaking of friends in the Valiyadi estate, we have had very good friendly relations with most of the members, and who were from what is called those days south, or the southern part of Kerala. That is south of, let us say, Ernakulam, all the way down to Thiruvananthapuram. And the majority were workers in the Kerala State Road Transport Corporation and the cabin crew, like ticket examiners and conductors. There was only a handful of others who worked either for the government of state or government of India. And one guy by name Mr. Gopi, or we used to call him Gopi Asari, he is a very interesting person. He cooks very well, and especially beef. He was the one who taught us, Radhakrishnan and me, how to cook because until I joined the Valayadi estate group of residents, Radhakrishnan did not cook. Radhakrishnan managed with whatever the canteen provided for the breakfast and lunch as well as supper. Anyway, as on the official side actually, Mr. Gopalakrishnan Nair, the geologist in charge of the office, wanted me and Iyer to get out to the field rather, because according to him, the exploration work in the Malabar region or Kozhikode district, which is not the only district north of Thrissur those days up to Kasaragod, is actually wanting. And Iyer was told to do the exploration or continue the exploration work for China clay in Kannur suburb, while I was asked to go to take up a work on exploration of iron ore, because those days iron ore was kind of in the limelight, because most of the new Persian Gulf countries were looking for iron ore deposits, either to buy the right or to import from. So naturally, I thought this is a good thing for the department to do. So I and Keshwan Nair departed to Angadipuram, and Angadipuram toward Melatur. There is a road leading to Melatur on the shores of the Nilambur River, and we chose a place, a half-finished home as our residence, and the residents had only one well, and half-finished. So if you wanted to take a bath in the evening, whenever you choose to, you either will have to go to the well and lift the water up and get the bath done, or you will have to go to a neighboring pond. But the neighboring pond was one which is attached to a Kovilagam again, a very small two-story house without any plastering. You can see the laterite brickwork open, and occupied by a family of 3 people and 1 girl child. Of the 3 people, 2 were women and 1 was a man. All of them were the siblings. And of course, the man who married to one of those girls probably deserted. He was not seen. So our friends immediate in the neighborhood told that because we are Hindus, probably we can go to what is called the Samurins Kovilagam there, and they may let you use during certain hours to the pond they have, the family pond. Well, we went in there one afternoon on a holiday. That is, we did not go to the field on that day, and then spoke to the man of the house, and he was very cordial. He asked us to sit down. There is no chair, but in the veranda, and he also chose to sit with us, and asked about why we are there, where are we from, what are our plans in that village, etc., etc. We gave a narration of our plan and where are we from and what we are doing there and how that will probably help the little community there in the future if we discover some valuable ore deposits in this province, in that province. Well, this gentleman agreed to our request to make use of the pond with only a caution that we will have to make sure that we will go there between 4 and 5 o'clock, because otherwise, there will be women of the same household, not too many, only 3, 1 girl and 2 elderly, and they will, want to use the pond at other times. Well, then there was a green signal given to us, and we of course thanked profusely, and we were given a cup of plain water, Obvious reason, they are very poor. They don't have any income, even though they were landlords once upon a time. And this gentleman told us that, all those paddy fields are, showing his hand in one direction, which where we could see the paddy fields, long stretches. They belonged to this family. Unfortunately, the people who were given tenancy were finally given by the government a permanent ownership, and this family became destitute without any income of whatsoever from paddy cultivation. Well, we thanked again, and we walked away to our residence. And one other thing we did was we went to one, what do you call us, Arabic college in the neighborhood, very close to our residence. Those days presided over by Abdul Rahman Umar Bafaki Tangal, a handsome man, very tall, very light colored skin, with very light colored skin, and a very expensive long robe, white, probably polyester robe, and of course the headbands. And we asked the permission in his to see this gentleman, and it was granted quickly, immediately, and we were actually taken into his office, which was those days very plush office. There was no air conditioning, but good curtains and good furniture. We were asked to take our seats, and then this gentleman asked, what is it that he can do for us? And I said, we are geologists employed by the state government, and we are on a field mission in this area. And one of the things we normally do is we go to such places and people and tell them who we are and what we are doing. If it is meant for building a bridge between the community and the officers who work, it is one of the things, one of the unwritten rules that we always followed. Well, we were in the field. From the next day onwards, we were in a daily wager to help us in the field, to accompany us in the field as a field guide. We had a topographic sheet. We looked around for the evidences or the traces or the outcrops of iron ore. One thing about the iron ore occurrence in that province is that the iron ore magnetite is a part of lenses and bands of a magnetite quartzite pyroxenite. And it was actually one of the rare occurrences in the peninsular India. There are some such occurrences on the other side of the Western Ghats, also in the state of Tamil Nadu. And as you go toward the north, what is called the so-called pyroxenite or pyroxene mineral disappears, and we have quartz magnetite massives like in Elliott-Timila, etc. So we walked around some of this country and identified several such occurrences. And one of the guides in the field is actually slag. The slag actually is something like a mammulated structure on the top, but while the bottom was flat and was porous and naturally heavier than gravels of laterite. So you will notice in the gullies as well as in the slopes, gentle slopes, patches of this slag. And the story is that during the what is called the Padayotam or Tippu Sultan to Malabar, the locals managed to extract iron, not to make spears, etc., or the so-called weaponry those days with iron. And the iron was extracted out of these quartz magnetite pyroxenites, and they used the rock and to extract the iron and in a fire, in a kiln, which is actually a heap of wood, locally available timber, and set fire to it. The temperature gets sufficient enough for part melting and release of iron, and the remaining part of the iron will remain in this slag. So this is a very interesting thing. We can, in some sites, we can see now there will be some pits, and the pits will have a larger accumulation of this slag as well as charred wood, or say something like charcoal. I'm sure that this charcoal was never dated by carbon 14 by archaeologists that I know of. At least I haven't read about the occurrences of the such sites and the attempts for dating the carbon age or absolute age. Anyway, so our geologist leader from Kozhikode visited us, and then twice or so on this, we were in the location for just about 2 months, like toward the end of August or middle of August rather. When during a second visit, I told Sir Gopalakrishnan Nair that I want to quit the job because I am planning to appear for the UPSC civil service exam, which is to take place in the same year in October. And I am also planning to join a coaching program offered in the University College Trivandrum. I applied for this civil service exam to UPSC way back in the early part of 1966 itself. So then Gopalakrishnan Nair said that there is no way you can go. If you want to go, you have to resign and go away, that's all. And until your resignation is approved by the headquarters office in Thrivikramji, I will not release you. But anyway, I said then I may be relieved of the field assignment. Okay, naturally it so happened, because Keshwan Nair was alone, both of us were relieved. Both of us were asked to close the camp and go back to Kozhikode. And geologist asked me to finalize all the bills and for approval. As soon as I finished the bills and got approved, I tendered a resignation letter and packed back to Trivandrum to home to get ready for the exam.